Sometimes you have a little bit of a sleuthing to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
You couldn't even open the menu to deal with that.
Well, when you got in the water, it wasn't as bad, but the shore was good.
What are those?
They were smaller than a maple.
Hey, I need to be exactly
They're just all over.
framed by.
You could hear them, I mean, you could hear them from a couple miles away. Fishing, you ran to the boat. Get the boat going as fast as they can go to get all the bugs out of the boat.
You still have that line up at Tenderfoot?
A tenderfoot.
Isn't that that lake that we went to?
Oh, no, we went camping up there? No. That was, Donnie Oliver.
All right, being 9:03 on Thursday, June 5th, I'm going to call the Marathon County Infrastructure Committee meeting to order, excuse me. Welcome, everybody. We have a quorum present. Second order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda, we have public comment. Do we have anybody that has approached for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda, approval of May 1, 2025 Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes. Minutes were in your packet. What is your pleasure? We have a motion from Soibert, second from Hardinger. Any further questions, comments, clarifications on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? We have unanimous approval of the May 1 meeting minutes. Move on to item 5, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. 5B, discussion and possible action by infrastructure to forward to county board for consideration. Item number 1, consideration of offer to purchase property in the village of Cronenworth, specifically parcel identification number 145-2707-022-0957, and amended offers to purchase on parcel identification numbers 145-2707-022-0973, 145-2707-022-0975, 145-2707-022-0971, and 145-2707-022-0970, potential locations for a relocated county highway facility. And turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. I'll hit on the first one, the first number that you read off. I won't repeat it again. That is the parcel number, if you remember, it was parcel P2, was the smaller 0.58 acres of land that was kind of part of the Spats property at one point, so it was up on the northern half. That was the last parcel of land. Lance will handle most of this because Lance has had many conversations with the property owners, the Shefkins. We also attended a meeting at the village the other night to discuss where we're at with that. At the end, we have agreed on a price for that one, and we've also worked out a deal where the Shefkins should stay there for till they would have the last day would be June 1 of 2026. That gives them time to we would close now It would give them money to go purchase a home because the housing market is still very tight. So unless you have some money in hand, it's very tough to buy parcels, which kind of the reason for the amendment for the other numbers, which we'll get into after the first one here on the docket. So it gives them some money so they can purchase and still live at their home with some cash. So Lance can kind of explain the conversations they've had with the Shifkins.
Sure, thanks, Jim. I apologize. My voice is going to be hard for you guys to deal with, but Jim hit the nail on the head. We've been meeting a lot with the Shefkins, and I think those meetings have gone very well, consistent with kind of the idea that I shared at your last meeting from the kind of the major takeaway from our conversations with the village, whether the village president or certainly our meeting last week that Jim referenced. Again, that idea of being a good neighbor, both to the village broadly, but also the property owners in our discussions. We really took the time to, and it was a pleasure to speak with Ariel and Eric to kind of better understand their situation. I think the offer before you addresses their concerns, and one of those primary concerns was what Jim just referenced, the idea that having the closing more promptly is certainly in the interest of the county, because we can finalize that transaction, but also then allowing the Shefkins the right to occupy the property post-closing gives them some opportunity to have additional time to secure that, the future either site of relocating their current property, their current home, or find a new home in an area where they're interested in moving. And actually that conversation with the Shefkins, as Jim alluded to, they expressed to us that the parcels along the bottom, it was P3, P4, P5, P6 had similar concerns. And again, it is actually in the county's interest to close promptly. So we went back and essentially offered an amendment that would give them the same right to occupancy that the Shefkins were looking for. The term of that occupancy is a little different in terms of duration, but very happy to report to you that we have that signed offer to purchase with the Shefkins and those amendments. I think it speaks, as I said too before, of our commitment to trying to be good neighbors and really listening throughout this process. And happy to answer any questions, but should this committee approve it and it go to the full board, we would hopefully close quite promptly. The benefit for the Shefkins is not only that transaction is done, they have that right to occupancy. It allows them that flexibility that if they find a house, I know Ariel and Eric are watching that market very closely. If next month, magically, or in 2 months, they find the perfect spot and they're able to close, they can terminate that right to occupancy. If, however, it takes more time or they make the decision to work to relocate their existing home, it gives them the time to do that. So I think all of the offer and then the amendments really from the perspective of the county, secure the county's interest, but also from the landowner perspective, my sense is that they really address kind of some of the threshold concerns they had. But with that, happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody on the committee have questions for staff? Go ahead, Supervisor Seibert.
Is there a financial gain if they close early? I mean, if they would close in 2 months or in 3 months and we're able to get in there, is there a financial reason that they would say we can close today because we found a house? Or are they going to drag it out for the whole year?
No, I think my sense, and Ariel's here, but I don't think there's a financial advantage for them, but as Jim alluded to and as I referenced, the housing market, I mean, if you've watched recently, there might be a period of time when, hey, there's 3 houses on the market in an area, and then they're gone quickly, and then there's nothing for a month. So what the occupancy agreement does, and this is my characterization based on conversations with Ariel and Eric, it gives them that period of time where they can really have the equity available to close, because in a world where that's highly competitive, a seller might have the opportunity to pick an offer that is contingent on a closing, the buyer selling their home and getting financing, and then they might have another offer that's all cash. Well, it's not surprising they're going to pick the all cash offer, right? So it puts Ariel and Eric in a better position in terms of what I'll say is flexibility, as opposed to one of financial interest for them. I will say on the county side, one other thing we looked at with Corporation Counsel, Jim and myself, just to give you context, having these conversations about to get a fair market value of the home and that arm's length transaction, as opposed to the other way that the government, including the county, can buy property or acquire property is eminent domain. And I am very confident, based on our conversations from a financial perspective, this is a far better financial outcome for the county, and I think it also meets the Sheffgens' concerns. One of the issues they had was, they bought at what I think was a moderately good time. They were able to secure a really good interest rate a couple of years ago, 3%. And understanding that challenge, if they have to refinance, if they move the home and have to refinance, they're going to be at 6%, and that value difference is about $100,000. So I think having those conversations led us to this point. I'm very confident that the price point before you for that offer is appropriate and in the best interest of the county. But I don't see a financial benefit necessarily for them to close early. The aspect of the offer that would give them some financial benefit of closing early is they get to stop making a mortgage payment during that period of time. Once the county owns it and they have the right of occupancy, they don't have to make the mortgage payment during that period of time.
I may add also, may not be any financial gain for the Sheffkins, but nor is there any additional cost for the county. If they decide to close, all of a sudden they hopefully find the home of their dream in July and we close in July, or if it takes us till May next year, there's really no cost for us because the Sheffkins are still, paying the insurance and they're paying all the utilities and all that. So there's no additional cost for us if we close now or in May.
And no operational issue either. I mean, we have enough other work on that site. If we did have the opportunity to do some site work, should this process continue, there's 24 and a half other acres that we can work on.
Any other questions from the committee? I would look for a motion if we're looking to approve I'm not going to read all the numbers again, sorry folks. We have a motion from Hardinger. We have a second from Soibert. Any further questions or comments on item 5B1, consideration of offers and amendments? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving the offers of purchase and amendments signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? We have unanimous approval. Also note that Supervisor Voll has joined us online. We are on to item 5B2, disposition excess right-of-way, County Truck Highway P, Town of Old Plain. I'm going to turn it over to staff.
Thank you again, Chair. I did put a briefing memo in your packet regarding this. So what happened back in 1954, Tom probably remembers this, Highway P was, had a 90-degree corner right there. They straightened it out, and there's a couple drawings in your packet to show what happened. In about 1986, the Bethany Mennonite Church built in that corner directly to the north of us, unaware to anybody up to this point. Some of that church is built on county property. The parking lot sits on county property and part of their church. It became aware to the church that it was sitting on property when they actually need to add on to the church and come out farther onto our property. So I was contacted by the church about if we'd be interested in selling some of that land to them. As far as highway issues, we have no problem with that. I did put a diagram in there. I talked to them about if we would keep 75 feet from the center line and keep a parallel arc, we would keep that for right-of-way maintenance, and we could either sell or transfer that other parcel of land over to them. Normally, what we would do if we would be selling a parcel of land, we would have to first make that lot. So we'd have to hire a surveyor to go out there, make that description and find that parcel. So I put a few different options in there that, we could either retain the land and not do anything and work with them through, some type of draft agreement with them about the property that already sits on there. I did take a look at the neighbor's land. If you look at the drawing, the color drawing where it says 973, that's a distance on there. That parcel is valued at about $5,000 an acre. I did contact the assessor, Jim Kurtzfeld. The town of Oak Plain is going to be reassessed this year, but he sees it maybe going to 55 or 6,000, not a great increase on there. Or the other option is we could transfer that land and have the church do all the work, the legwork, the cost of the surveying, and we transfer that over to them. So I did put that in there along with my recommendation, but again, it's up to this committee of what you would like to do with that excess land that we have there that the church would like to add on to their church for their congregation.
Do you have your microphone on, Supervisor Hardinger?
I'd like to motion for option 3.
Other thoughts? I think at the end of the day, we're talking about a minimal land value out there. I certainly don't want to see the county have to undertake any costs of surveying or anything associated with it, as it's not our problem that the church was cited in this specific way.
I may add that if we would have to hire a surveyor to go out there, we're going to have more than what we're going to make if we end up paying that.
Correct.
cost.
If there's no further discussion, I'd take a motion.
Yeah, motion for option 3, please.
Okay. So we have a motion by Hardinger. Looking for a second, Mr. Gisselman. So we have a motion to transfer the excess land with cost reimbursement, which is retaining a 75-foot wide right-of-way from the center line of County P and transferring the remaining plus or approximate 0.2 acres to Bethany Mennonite Church with the condition that the church cover all associated costs. These costs include title search, deed preparation, surveying, and closing expenses. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? We have unanimous approval to move forward with option 3. We are on to item 5B3, disposition of properties, former 28th Avenue corridor. I'll turn it over to staff.
Again, I have another briefing memo in your packet for your review. The background in that was, again, the 28th Avenue, as we're well aware, was a project that we thought about back in early 2000s and was officially mapped, a corridor map, in 2005. It was a long-term strategy that we would extend Highway R all the way up to Highway K as an alternate route and as traffic volumes increased out there. A few items had happened after that. The traffic volumes never increased as we had projected, nor then the city of Wausau also expanded Westwood Drive, making that a 4-lane facility, paralleling this road by less than a half a mile. So there's really no need to have 2 4-lane roads that close to one another. So at that point, we decided that we would no longer do this. Was back in September of '21 that we would no longer do that. We passed the resolution 71-21, and that did the framework for how to get rid of those parcels. However, prior to that point, we did buy numerous parcels, about 13 of them, I believe, 13 or 14 parcels. We had bought when we thought this was still going on. The majority of them were purchased right after the corridor map, and a few after that. There is a map in your packet and on the screen right now showing the parcels. These are the ones that are in the village, the city of Wausau. There's also some up in the village of Maine that we have purchased. So I did contact both the village of Maine and the city of Wausau for these. The village of Maine, there's some areas that they only have a 3-rod road. As you remember that we had discussed this a couple of meetings ago with the Balagas, that the village wanted to buy a half a rod of road to give them a little more right-of-way, and we sold the rest back to the adjacent landowner. So the village wishes in the village, if we sell any parcels, that we should contact them, that they would have the right to buy a little bit for the roadway, or we could sell it back, however we decided to. And then we also had the ones here in the city. I did talk to Eric in the city of Wausau. They have no issue returning these back. However, there is a process. This committee would have formally need to ask the city of Wausau to pass a resolution to vacate the right-of-way along the 28th corridor. That will be about a 3 to 4 month process because they have to have public hearings. They don't see any issues with the hearings, but there is a process that they need to follow. So again, it's our recommendation as staff that this committee approves the framework that was put together back in a couple years back. That's included in your packet as Exhibit A, which I'm not going to go through, but to sell those parcels back. We would have moved it from this committee to finance and let finance develop a strategy to sell those parcels, whether if you're going to put them up on public auction or we work with a realtor, but have finance develop a strategy to do that. But the first step would be this committee approving the first recommending that we send the city of Wausau a letter requesting that resolution to vacate the right-of-way and then to move it to HR Finance and Property to develop a strategy to.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think you did a good job summarizing that. It's been a ongoing, long effort, I'll say, from those of us that have been on county board and committee for a long time. What are the committee's thoughts? Supervisor Soibert.
Is there an appraised value for that property, Jim?
There's not an appraised value on that land at this point, because when we bought those parcels, a lot of those parcels had homes on. So we really can't take the value. I can tell you that, when we bought those homes, we have over $800,000 of acquisition in those parcels already. And then also, with that recommendation, I need to add this under, with that recommendation be all those revenues generated from them would come back into the Highway Reserve Fund for the development of the new highway shop.
Are they still subdivided into individual lots, or is it just one big piece
No,
of
I
property?
did talk to zoning department. So the parcel that it's all one big lot at the moment, but that'd be one thing the HR finance would have to decide. If you want to slide back to that one map with that one, you can see the lines in there. They did put those lines back in. We can develop those parcels to back they are. However, if you look at work your way down from north to the south, that's a nice sized parcel right along. I believe that's West Wassa Ave and 30th. That's a nice parcel in the corner. But then we have a couple smaller ones in there. I guess somebody would have to decide how we want to divide those parcels back up, if we want to leave it the way it was developed or divide those up.
Those would be all buildable lots?
Correct.
In that one section?
I'm not sure what the city zoning is. I don't know if those smaller lots would be buildable, if we would need to have 2 lots on those to build.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Vice Chair Dickinson.
Thank you. So there's really kind of 3 thoughts here, right? One is we need the city to vacate right away. Number 2, we need to decide or use a recommendation that this money is going to go to the highway facility. And then number 3, it's how that property is going to be used by HR Finance.
Correct.
So are we looking for like a motion for all 3 of those things? Are we looking for just the right of way? And then when that comes back, then we decide on the others? Because nothing else will happen until that happens.
And as far as the money coming back into highway reserve, I believe, according to state statute, that was purchased through highway funds. All money appropriated from highway funds, and if it's sold, it needs to come back into highway funds, so.
Yeah, if I can add, sorry. State law, as Jim said, references the funds have to go back to the reserve. To your point, Vice Chair Dickinson, moving forward with both simultaneously, I don't want to wait until the city of Wausau comes back with, okay, we're going to vacate the right-of-way. We've completed that, and then start thinking about how do we want to sell these. It's been long enough. I mean, we've waited between the city and the village. It's been a long process of, do you want these parcels or not? I think it behooves us to, all right, do we want to list them? Do we want to, first of all, break them up in the way that they were previously into individual parcels? And if so, do you want to sell them via realtor? Do you want to sell them by online auction as the county has sold its tax deed parcels? My hope is we can have that conversation in the interim.
Thank you. If I can follow up.
Yep.
I will say, from the county board's discussions we've had about tax deed properties and fair market values and things like that, I'm just going to throw out there's probably going to be some concern and some focus on how these properties are going to be divided up, the land's going to be divided up, and what kind of money we're going to get from that, especially considering some of the housing discussion, housing issues. And so I just want to just throw it out there that I think this is, we have to be careful about how that conversation's had and whether we're doing right for, the value of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I think that's be an important discussion too. I think where we're at, we're just looking to approve the sale of the properties, and then that'll move forward. That conversation will happen at HR Finance, but great points. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion. Motion from Soibert. You want to state what your motion is? So you're looking to approve the sale of the county-owned properties along the former 28th Avenue corridor and forward this recommendation to HR Finance and Property Committee? Exactly. We have a motion from Soibert. Do we have a second? Second from Hardinger. Mr. Gisselman.
Does the county have a process for selling land? So that there's no conflicts, I think after what we went through in the city, I think we need to make sure that everything is above board with regard to the selling of the land. Do we have a process for that?
The short answer is yes. Your process ultimately, any sale of property has to be approved by the board. So you'll all have an opportunity to see the details of it. What staff need are kind of a guiding process for a particular parcel. HR Finance is having a lot of conversations about that right now, and I'll tell you to the vice chair's points earlier, my characterization of those conversations is that HR Finance is looking at perhaps utilizing as a general principle different processes for different situations. So to the vice chair's point, if a parcel is a large parcel that maybe has a value of, like our River Drive buildings, I'll use for example, seeking requests for proposals to get a lot of detail about what that might be, as opposed to for a vacant lot, listing those on Wisconsin surplus. So the short answer is yes, state statute requires that the county board approve land sales. And we'll bring you the details. But this is one of those situations where, again, I think consistent with the general sentiments the vice chair offered, we need staff needs some direction on what you want us to do. If you want us to adopt a strategy that is list each of these, go back to subdividing the parcels as they were and list them for sale on an open auction, and take the highest bid, provided it comes in at above appraised value, we can do that. And I expect that to be a fair amount of the conversation at HR Finance.
So that decision gets made at HR Finance rather than this committee?
Well, I think that's one of the things that we talked about as staff is, direction from this committee on the infrastructure related side. But you could also certainly make your motion that you recommend subdividing it, or you recommend some other approach. But from the staff perspective, we just need the direction of which one to do. And then we'll adopt whatever strategy you want, or I should say process you want.
So does that decision have to be made today, or does that next month with regard, at least the initial motion would be to sell? I get that, but the process, I think we want to be up fairly above board and with true value. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the motion that we have on the table? Seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor of approving the sale of the county-owned properties on the former 28th Avenue corridor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, we have unanimous approval of item 5B3. We are on to item 5B4, consideration of request from Central Wisconsin Airport Board to establish a regional aviation development fund to advance commercial air service. I'll turn it over to Brian.
Is it on? Oh, perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Chair Pfeiffer. Good morning. I'm Brian Griefey. I'm the Airport Director for Central Wisconsin Airport. What I'm presenting today was approved by resolution last month by the Joint Airport Board. In short, we need your help to do something kind of exciting, something different, and something to help air service in Marathon County. So there we go. So what I'm doing today is advocating for the creation and funding of a Central Wisconsin Air Service Development Fund. Use that fund to implement a minimum revenue guarantee program to attract new air service. Also, I've got kind of a name that community thing going on the slide. So if you can name each community, the first one was Wausau. Bonus points to anybody that can name those. Stevens Point. So what is air service development? Just a little bit of background and education. It's ongoing airline dialogue. That's something that I've been engaged with since I've worked here. We're talking with all the airlines that serve the airport and, of course, ones that are potential. Community advocacy, advocating for our community, stakeholder coordination, existing route defense, business case and airline outreach, and industry event representation of our community. So what is a minimum revenue guarantee? It's not a subsidy or a direct payment, and that's important to understand. It's a temporary financial safety net, covers revenue shortfall versus the target. So it really just helps an airline get established. It's limited to a 12 to 24-month duration, funded by non-airport sources, and that is key. That's why I'm here today. And the airlines, especially now, this day and age, view this as essential, particularly for smaller markets like Central Wisconsin. There's a lot that the airport can do and provide, and those are listed. Landing fees, landing fee waivers, facility fee credits, marketing support, but it's very, very limited, and that's because of FAA policy. We accept federal funds, revised December 7th, 2023. So community tools like MRGs are now crucial, but also compliant with federal regulations. Maybe you know that community? Yep. Yep. Why Seaway needs community support. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody here. High fares and limited nonstop options, passenger leakage to other airports and other states. The MRG and MRG levels this competitive playing field. This one. There you go. So if successful, the economic impact of enhanced air service will support regional business and workforce, attract investment and talent, enhance tourism, and provide critical travel connections to our communities. Return on investment estimates. This information's from an airport cooperative research program. It's a federal research consortium, Report 132, Intervistas Consulting, and FAA guidance. So a $500,000 investment for one new route equates to roughly a $3 million annual regional economic impact. So that's every year. A $1.5 million investment to secure potentially multiple routes would be about a $9 million annual impact. So how do we fund this? Few funding strategies, and this is something that airport staff and honestly Marathon County staff with the feedback of Administrator Leonard thought we could spread the love a little bit. So local funding, government contributions, the reason I'm here today. Area foundations, there are a lot of foundations in our region that sole purpose is to make Central Wisconsin a better place to live. Business and industry partnership, all these are potential tourism and hospitality investment, and then federal and state program leverage. Well, we did have some success a couple years ago with a small community air service development program through Avello. Imagine there's going to be questions on that. That was successful, very similar program to that. This one's a little trickier. What community? It's a ride in the fall.
Tomahawk?
Yep. Oh, yeah, Ribmount, thank you. So this is important, risk management and accountability. These funds would only be used if a revenue shortfall occurs. So it's not guaranteed funds. There need to be clear performance metrics. It would be managed by an independent entity, and that is being established right now. And it would be a transparent fund for governance and reporting purposes. So So this is the ask today to help fund the Central Wisconsin Air Service Development Fund. Right now, only asking for $150,000 seed money. Feel free to motion above that. A full $1.5 million will really get the ball rolling, but the request right now is $150,000. Reason for that is target number is $500,000 just to start this. But then the hope would be the additional funds would come from, of course, the next ask is Portage County, because they're also an owner of the airport, but then the foundations and other entities that were listed on the slide. Of course, this will enhance regional connectivity and competitiveness, drive economic growth, improve the quality of life in central Wisconsin, and acting now to get in line with what other communities are doing will help secure long-term benefits with, quite honestly, little risk, because if we don't use the money, if we don't secure an airline, it doesn't go anywhere. It potentially could come back to the county. Yes. With that, happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Questions from the committee? Supervisor Hardinger.
Sure. So, if I understand this right, the call to action is to, you're looking for roughly a minimum of 500,000. Between that and 1.5 million would be the higher end goal. But the overall of this is to gain additional routes or additional carriers.
Great question. So right now, the goal for the Air Service Development Fund is $500,000. The ask for this committee and ultimately Marathon County is to a motion to direct the county administrator to include $150,000 in the 2026 budget, so it can be included as part of the budget process. Thank you for that. $500,000 to be open with this committee would do a good job of getting seasonal air service, potentially something like a low-cost carrier. If we're looking for daily service from a existing or a new legacy carrier, that number will be closer to the 1.5 million. So 500,000, to answer your question more directly, would be a new airline and a new route. Seasonal service, most likely, probably first quarter 2026 or 2027, when most people want to travel to one of those warm sun-type destinations.
Okay, so, thank you. So do you have a carrier in mind? Do you have routes in mind? Is there anything that we could use to kind of get an idea for, okay, this is the carrier that we would like to include in it, and this is how we feel that's going to impact our travel in central Wisconsin, and how many people would actually use that destination, or is the airline that they'd like to use, or just kind of a little more information as far as how that is going to directly impact the airport and the travel services.
Great question. So specifically for the low-cost carrier, I would be looking at low-cost carriers whose business model fit this type of program. So Sun Country is certainly first and foremost top of mind. Breeze is doing some things in the state now too. Those are probably the top two. Certainly going to continue conversations with Avelo, although they've moved down significantly in my book. We'll also let Allegiant know about it, but as we go down low-cost carrier options, Frontier becomes less and less likely. Our biggest likelihoods, and this is really just to start the conversation, so I don't want to give this committee the impression that if we approve this airline is coming, because nobody has committed to that yet. But the highest and most likely targets would be somebody like Sun Country, Breeze. Now, for destinations, we look at our top unserved destinations. Orlando did very well. That would certainly be one of the top on the list. Probably Fort Myers. Then also looking at Phoenix and Las Vegas.
Great.
Those are really our top unserved leisure type destinations.
Okay.
Question for Administrator Leonard. So the 150,000 or whatever money that was utilized for this, would this be something that we would be looking to put into our budget for next year, or how is the funding? Where would that come from?
The former question first. My understanding is that that's the request, is to direct administration to include $150,000 for this purpose in my proposed budget for 2026. Is that correct? In terms of where would it come from, I really don't I mean, I look at the budget as a whole, not like, okay, this part's going to
Yeah.
come from sales tax, this part's going to come from property tax, but knowing early that I need to incorporate that would be helpful. And I don't want to speak for the airport board or Director Griefy, but I think based on the conversations that I've had with Brian and the conversations he's had with other members of the board, my understanding of this would also likely be helpful. The county taking action at this time of year would be helpful to leverage those other sources to fill out the remaining $500,000, not only Portage, but then whoever is ultimately charged with kind of fundraising for that remaining portion can say, look, if you come to the table, the counties, Portage and Marathon are already invested contingent upon that additional funding coming. So I think it's in terms of a strategy, I think that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then a question for, Avila was great while it lasted. It didn't last. So what, because I think this is the biggest question. Otherwise, I think everything is great about this. This is more services. It's what people want to see. Orlando was great, but it didn't last.
Yep.
How do we prevent that, or what, just if you can talk to that a little bit. I think that's the, biggest thing that's going to come up as part of this conversation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the critical question. There is no guarantee. I wish there was. But this is the mechanism that gives that airline the opportunity to succeed. It's organizations like the airport board, like this committee, that brings the airline to the table, that gets the airlines to our community through programs like this. Quite honestly, it's the community that either makes it or breaks it. With Avelo, they actually did pretty well. They were a new airline. They did some strategic restructuring. Had it been another airline, probably still would have been here today. Maybe seasonal service, maybe not year-round. But this really gives us the opportunity for that next airline to be successful. I guess to follow up on that a little bit more, anything we would be proposing to an airline, and quite honestly, anything an airline would be considering offering to Seaway, we would need to support that with good, strong data that it would be successful. That's why I mentioned the previous communities. We know those are supported. We know those are supported elsewhere in the state. We're able to get data that citizens of central Wisconsin fly to these destinations, but they have to do it on other airports and potentially other states. So there's no guarantee, but this is what gives us that opportunity to have that and ultimately make it successful.
Other questions from the committee? What's that? Supervisor Vole. We'll come back to Supervisor Vole if anybody else on the committee has any questions. Supervisor Hardinger?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I've got a couple follow-ups. So the money that we would be investing into this, because you mentioned ROI, just to be clear, whatever money we're going to give you guys toward this is not something we're expecting to get back. It's an investment in the airport and whatever service they're going to obtain for the future. Is that correct?
Correct. It wouldn't be direct payments back to Marathon County. It would be indirect through economic stimulus.
Okay,
Yep.
understood.
Yep.
And do you have anything from like, I don't know, Appleton or a simpler size airport that has done something similar to this and the amount of money that would correlate to the investment to what they would actually like, okay, if you get 500,000, okay, well, we might be able to get a couple of flights on a carrier to a certain range. Or maybe we can get Orlando out of that. Or if we get up to $1 million, we can get Orlando and we can get Phoenix, we can get maybe a couple other larger or farther destinations. I mean, would that make sense that the more money we put in, kind of the farther away we could get with it, or the more carriers we could, or?
It does. So I'll try to answer all of them.
Sorry, it was a lot.
No, it's good. These are all very relevant questions, and if I fail on one, please re-ask. So this is something that other airports do, and just specific to Wisconsin, certainly across the country, but specific to Wisconsin. You look at, let's look at all the commercial service airports. There are 8 of them. Rhinelander and Eau Claire have a similar program, a federally funded program through Essential Air Service. Eau Claire's actually doing a little bit more with an MRG fund, specifically for their leisure destinations. As you go next one up, La Crosse, there's been a lot in, actually published about that one. They've got the exact number of but they have an MRG fund set up for enhanced air service. Out of all the airports in the state, they're the ones that have lost the most, certainly since COVID. That's what we're talking. The next one up is Seaway. That's what we're talking about today. Green Bay, I honestly don't know. I suspect they have something, but they keep that close. I do know Appleton has an MRG type fund that they use very aggressively and effectively, to your question. And then as we get bigger, Milwaukee and Madison, I honestly just don't know about those folks. The dollar amount across the industry, not just the state, but the entire U.S., the $500,000 is kind of that sweet spot for the seasonal service. $1.5 million would be not necessarily further destinations, but more frequency. That would be something that would attract your legacy carriers for daily service. So of course we all want daily service to Detroit. This is something, well, it would start out with the $500,000 or whatever the pot grows to. I would use to help get that service back to Detroit. On American, potentially DFW, that's our best, highest opportunity. That would be daily service, and it would connect, to all the markets that DFW connects to. And then, of course, bringing back United. This would be a very valuable tool. That would probably be closer to the $1.5 million to bring them back. They would have some ideas on what market they would want to serve. I suspect it would be Chicago, but this would help those conversations. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Any further questions or comments from the committee? Supervisor Vold, did you have anything?
Thanks, Randy. I have a question, but you asked it before I got a chance to, so
Okay.
Good.
Wonderful. Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you. So as the chair of the Joint Airport Board, and Supervisor Sorbert is also on that board, this is something that the board was unanimously supported in both counties. And I think the reason is, as Director Grieve pointed out, is we're successful here. This is a good airport. There's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of construction going on, the FBO and et cetera. And our community needs it. We've gone from, 11 daily flights?
12, I think, was the
And now
peak
we
since I've
have,
been here.
we're down to
5.
5. When Avelo came in, Avelo was very successful. Their issue was their issue. It wasn't people not flying. It was very successful. And if this is the route that you have to go to prove to an airline that we are committed as a region to the airport, then this is the route you have to go. And I think that's what the airport board is saying, and I think that's what the airport is saying, and I would hope that this committee would support it, and I hope that the other committees would as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Hardinger, and then we'll go around the board.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dickinson. I guess my question is, there was a list there of several contributors that would be a part of this overall fund. When you say, when you have that list and you say between 500,000 and 1.5 million, as far as the county's concerned and everybody else, if we put in 500, is Portage looking to match our funds? Are they financially able to match our funds? And then you're just trying to get the last 500,000?
Yeah, so this funding strategy was set up for a
Okay.
$500,000 pot. What the ask of Portage County would be their percent ownership, so that would equate to roughly $100,000.
Okay.
And that's what we did with Avelo. That's typically when things are funded by the counties. Marathon County, being the dominant owner of the airport, funds their percentage ownership, and Portage funds their percentage ownership.
Thank you. And as far as the federal and state programs, are there any that are available to Seaway to use?
We are probably going to apply for a small community or service development grant again. We need to have the existing one closed out, just a paperwork thing that we have to get through before we have any chance of getting it again. That would be a great multiplier. That would be something for DFW or Detroit, Dallas-Fort Worth or Detroit, because you could take that as a local share, multiply it with the federal money, and you can get right to that $1.5 million. There is no state program, to be perfectly candid, but there is a bill that was introduced on Monday of this week to establish that committee by Representative Jacobson. So that's something the Wisconsin Airport Management Association and through my job at Seaway are helping push that bill along to hopefully establish a program. Same thing where it would have a local share, but could be a multiplier for these type of funds for any community that has this set up.
Thank you. Would it be appropriate for me to ask Vice Chair Dickinson what the, I guess, the general consensus of the committees were for investment to this on our part, on Marathon County's behalf?
We're the first committee, Marathon County Standing Committee, to be having this discussion. EEDC will have it this afternoon. HR Finance will have a discussion next Wednesday.
So as far as-
Those are the three committees that would kind of have that responsibility to then forward to the full county board.
Okay.
Supervisor Gisselman.
Thank you. With regard to questions with regard to long-term, I can see the short-term. Sure, we're giving these monies, but in the long term, evidently in the long term, Delta felt that Central Wisconsin to Detroit wasn't feasible, so that flight ceased quite a few years ago. So what would be the law? I mean, if this Avio, is that how you pronounce it, the seasonal, if they were making money, but yet the corporate structure wasn't right, why wouldn't other airlines feel that there would be monies to be made on their own dollar to come in, whether it be I'm not familiar with the airlines that would be appropriate, but if there was money to be made on that seasonal route from Central Wisconsin to Orlando or wherever, I would think that there would be airlines that would also be seeing that profit and establish that airline. I don't know that I fly out of Central Wisconsin, but I know will Central Wisconsin ever be in competition with Appleton or Green Bay or Madison? I know that they even trek over to Minneapolis. There seems to be something with regard to Central Wisconsin, and I'm not familiar with that. I don't sit on the air, but it just seems like the more and more people that I hear of, they feel that Appleton, Green Bay, Madison, Minneapolis is worth that trip. And for I get the short term, sure, they're United or American is getting these initial payments, but in the long term, that I'm not sure that that's going to, but we don't know that. So that would be my question.
Yeah, great question. And you bring up a very valid concern that I hear about certainly weekly. Honestly, a little bit of misinformation there. And to explain that, it's important to understand our community and understand the airline industry and kind of what happened there. So your first comment about Delta and Detroit service not doing so well and Delta deciding to pull that. That was actually did extremely well for them, and that was coupled with the fact that we have a maintenance base at Seaway, a Delta maintenance base. It's Endeavor, but Delta owns Endeavor, that's able to work on the planes that they fly into Seaway. Why they pulled service out of Central Wisconsin was because of an airframe issue. So all airports our size, and quite honestly, outside of Milwaukee and Madison, most airports in the state were served by regional jets, and specifically a 50-seat regional jet. If you remember the CRJ 200, Actually, the airport just yesterday flew its last 50-seat regional jet. Delta was the first legacy carrier to retire those aircraft. So they needed to get rid of, they had a deadline, it was end of the year 2023, Dave, or 2022? 22, to get rid of all those planes in their fleet. They did that, quite honestly, with an axe or with a chainsaw, if you prefer. And the airports, it really wasn't more sophisticated than, let's cut the small airports first, and let's keep going up until all the 50 seats are gone. And then as they add capacity back, they add it at the bigger airports first, and slowly work their way down to the smaller airports. So now our community, right now we have about 500,000 passengers flying every year. That's arriving and departing. Of that, we capture only about 100,000. So it's nearly 80, well, actually the number's closer to 70, just over 70% have to fly out of other airports. Here at Central Wisconsin, we physically don't have enough seats to serve all of the demand in Central Wisconsin. So quite honestly and unfortunately, our community members are forced to go to these terrible airports like Appleton and, I shouldn't say that, Minnesota and Illinois and Chicago. It's just a numbers game. Now, so it does well, it makes money. The next question is, why haven't they given us these resources back yet? Resources still are very, very limited, both aircraft and pilots. And I'll be presenting on this here in a few minutes. American just had a huge investment in Central Wisconsin, and they increased their capacity by 30% starting today. When they got rid of their last 50 seat, now it's all 70 seat. But the other airlines, so Delta bringing Detroit back, Delta bringing Detroit back, American potentially adding another route. They're certainly looking at it, and those conversations have been very positive over the last year and a half. But the first thing they say is, we are looking, we're interested in your community, but we're looking at ways to defer risk, is the term they use. So what defer risk means is it costs them a lot of money to get established in a community. Either a new airline, that costs even more, or even a new route. To get that word out, it costs that airline a lot of money. That deferred risk is really what this MRG is. It's to get them in if they know there's a good, strong business case. It's so they don't lose a ton of money that first year, that second year, because they're a business and they're beholden to their shareholders. And this puts us just the next level up over that next community our size, be it something like a Kalamazoo, Michigan, or another airport in another state, where if they've only got, and oftentimes it is just one airframe to go around, which airport are they going to give it to? Are they going to give it to an airport where the numbers look good, but the financial risk is completely on them, or an airport where the numbers look maybe identical, but there's little to no financial risk? They're going to make that decision every time. And I guess just to finish out that thought, I certainly wouldn't propose any route to any airline that wouldn't be successful. So anybody wants to go to LA, I'm not going to support that. It's not in our top 20 destinations, so I'd be looking really only at our top 5 destinations for daily service, and then what we talked about for the seasonal service. And those would only really be connected to large hubs that have a good network that would enhance service and get visitors of Central Wisconsin to really where they want to be. You're welcome.
Supervisor Jensen.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question on, the MRG, and would that be leveraged for flights that are delayed or canceled due to weather, other things, and are there any on-time guarantees associated with it? Just thinking operationally.
God, I wish I could say yes to the guarantees. Typically, how these are structured, and this would be managed by a third party, to help hold the funds. So that agreement would be with that third party. So it would be a little different for each airline, and that would have to be negotiated. But typically, there's a value assigned to each flight. If all the fees that they collect, be it ticket fees, baggage fees, selecting seat fees, if they're above that, then there is no payment. If they're below that, it's really just making up the difference. Averaged out over a period of time, what I'd be recommending is a quarter of a year. There are some performance guarantees in terms of it needs to be at least, depending on how the negotiations go, but at least daily service, a couple times daily, a couple times a week, and that would be specific to the airline in those negotiations, and specifically the dollar amount they're asking for.
Any further questions? Supervisor Seubert.
Thank you. I guess if I made a list, Detroit would probably be pretty high on that list. And the reason is that if when people say, oh, we're flying here, we're flying there, I say, where are you flying out of? Green Bay or Appleton? Well, why? They won't go through Chicago. Chicago scares people. And when they look for tickets, they won't even look at a flight that goes through Chicago. So they drive to Appleton or drive to Green Bay. If we had a Detroit flight, I think we'd get a lot of that business back. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great comment, and certainly echoes what I've heard by particularly our business users that really want that. We have a lot of business on the East Coast, or at least east of here, and people want to go through Detroit. Got a little bit of a comment on Chicago, too, on the next presentation I've got.
Any further questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd look for a motion. Supervisor Seubert.
I'll make a motion to the fact that we support or advance it for different community or how.
So would your motion be to support it at the requested ask of $150,000 for a
Yes, I make more.
regional? Okay. We have a second from Hardinger. Further questions or comments? All those in favor of supporting the request of $150,000 for regional aviation development fund signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we have unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to item 6A, municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4 annual report overview. Highway and CPZ. We'll start with CPZ.
I will do this update since Jim's handing off all his torches. Since we do have a reasonable potential to contribute to the exceedance of water quality standards via our facilities and roadways, we do have what's called an MS4 permit. And so I think every year you all are used to seeing this. We do bring our annual report to you all that we have submitted to the DNR that catalogs activities that we are undertaking to try and reduce that potential to add pollutants to be a non-point stormwater pollution. So this report just summarizes that. It summarizes the education activities that we work on with the other municipalities via our North Central Wisconsin Stormwater Coalition. It talks about our salt application in the county. It talks about the inspections that we do with highways on our outfalls and at our highway facilities to make sure that we, again, are not putting those pollutants into our waters. So that's what this report is. We submitted it to DNR this spring, and then we work back and forth with them on comments or other corrections or updates they want us to try and achieve in the next year or the next several years. So I'll take any questions.
Anybody in the committee have questions for staff? Hearing, seeing nobody, we appreciate your presentation and including the report to us. We'll move on to item 6B, update Wausau Metropolitan Planning Organization on application for U.S. Department of Transportation Safety Planning Funds.
Okay, I'll take that one too. So I think you're aware the Metropolitan Planning Organization is housed within Marathon County CPZ. And recently, we were working with the MPO on starting to update our long-range transportation plan, which we need to do the update by 2027. One of the gaps we have identified is just some safety information, and we did find out from the USDOT that they do have what's called Safe Streets for All planning funds that we can use for looking at safety throughout the entire MPO boundary. So on May 13th, the MPO did give us that green light to go ahead and apply for those funds. At this time, there's nothing we're asking for from the county board. If we were to receive those funds, they would either go into our 2026 budget request, or if they came too late for that, we'd do an amendment in 2026 to ask for the permission to accept those funds. So if they are awarded to us, we will be able to just do a comprehensive safety analysis throughout the MPO area, and this would be different from the safety study that was completed by Highways in 2021. So.
Thank you. Anybody on the committee have any questions? Hearing, seeing nobody with questions, thank you for the update. Move on to item 6C, Central Wisconsin Airport update. We'll welcome Brian back to the stage.
Thank you again, Chair Pfeiffer. Well, it's feast or famine with me. This is just a general airport update. Proud to say, shifting gears a little bit, the airport is growing, evolving, and is a key economic engine for a region. Today, I just want to share some of the exciting things we got going on at Central Wisconsin Airport, and quite honestly, how you can be part of that momentum. Air service, I know we talked about that a lot. I just want to touch on a few items additionally. American Airlines, again, has made a huge investment in our region, increasing their capacity by 30% over the summer as compared to last year. That means more flights and better options. These are on the bigger 70-seat Embraer 170 aircraft, which if you haven't been on, it's a beautiful plane. It's got first-class options. It's bigger. It's got the low engines. It looks like a scaled version of a 737. And you can see that with the fares. I encourage you all to check prices out of Seaway. And it's not just the aircraft. They also restructured their model out of Chicago. So Supervisor Soibert's comments were certainly spot on. We experienced that over the winter, and quite honestly, the last couple of years with Chicago. But they completely restructured their banks into Chicago. So it's not the Chicago. The Chicago this summer, I should say, is not what you experienced before. They've got better connections, better gaps, and it should be a lot more pleasant traveler experience. Dave gets a number of the comments from travelers, and since they've upgraded to the larger plane, what would you say complaints have decreased by Chicago specifically?
Very positive about larger plane, a different carrier operating that plane also, which from a reliability standpoint and delay standpoint has been dramatic change from prior operators. So all it is, as Brian alluded to earlier, we switched over today to ever the 50-seaters and all that, so they're all the operator planes in this class. So some of them will be much better than basically probably the last 2.5 years.
Thank you. Delta is also a strong partner, and conversations are going well with them. Actually, I'll be talking with them and American and a few others next week in Indiana. They are evaluating the increased capacity. They're evaluating the return of Detroit right now. Our maintenance base Endeavor is pushing pretty hard to get that back from the maintenance standpoint, from what we just talked about. They're able to provide good, high-quality maintenance services to those regional jets that are serving Detroit. So that would be a good strategic move for them. That's even outside of an MRG program, just more tools in the toolbox. And then, of course, a low-cost carrier that was well supported by our community, and that went noticed. We have the numbers. We have good data that shows support for a low-cost carrier. So I'm taking that data to every low-cost carrier, and there is interest. So that is, too, very much a part of the discussion. But it's important. I do need your help with this. Personal help, not necessarily county help from this support. Every time you fly out of Seaway, you are voting with your wallet. Airlines notice when we fill their planes. The better they do, the more they'll invest. So anything you can do to fly Seaway or encourage others, that's how we grow. That more than anything is how we make the airport successful and bring back those flights that we lost during COVID. Shifting gears a little bit, Ovation is the name of our new FBO. The FBO is fixed base operator. They're the ones that provide all the general aviation services at the airport, but also provide services to the airlines, fuel, ground handling, whatnot. Brand new company. It's been under new ownership for about a year now. Ovation is a family-owned, locally operated business. That's about relationships, service, and community, and quite honestly, they're already making an impact. They are aggressive and want their business in this airport to do well. They have 14 employees and are growing. They offer everything from aircraft parking to refueling, de-icing, catering, hangar leasing for both long and short-term tenants. They're even working on launching maintenance services at Seaway, something that we've been asking for a long time. They have a Cessna 172 that's available for rent for anybody that's thought about learning to fly or sharpening their pilot skills. So why does this matter? Why is this private business on the airport important? General aviation, both private and business aircraft, is a vital part of our region's economy. It brings high-value travelers and supports local companies and generates revenues that helps the airport be self-sufficient. Talk a little bit about infrastructure. It's the right committee to talk about that. That's something that I feel we do better probably than anybody, certainly in our class of airport. Thanks to a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-career opportunity through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, we have an opportunity to improve 2 of our general aviation facilities. Just let me paint a picture. When the FBO was built in the early 80s, it worked well for a time when most of the aircraft were small single-engine Pipers and Cessnas. But today, it's honestly Gulfstreams and Citations that we see at the airport. They're heavy aircraft, bigger aircraft that need more modern facilities and quite honestly better facilities than what we're providing. Right now, none of our hangars can fit those aircraft, and that's lost opportunity for the airport. But with this IIJA funding and FAA support, and quite honestly our own airport dollars, we're building 2 new facilities, modern general aviation terminal building, so general aviation terminal building, not the terminal you're all thinking of, the FBO building, and a large box hangar capable of supporting these large aircraft where there is a strong demand in the state of Wisconsin, not just central Wisconsin. These investments will make us more competitive, attract new business, and better serve the aircraft travelers already choosing Seaway. So in short, on that front, we have momentum. The airlines are investing. General aviation is certainly growing, and we're building infrastructure that sets us up for long-term success. We're not just an airport, we're a connector of communities, businesses, and families, and we couldn't do it without your support. So thank you again, and please keep flying Seaway. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for the director? Hearing, seeing none, once again, I think echoing Brian's words, it's so important that we as a community, we as a county support Seaway. The only way that we're going to get more options is to support it, and frankly, it's very convenient.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you. We will move on to item 6D, new county highway facility update, SPATS, WPS Village meeting. I'll turn it over to, I think you've had enough already, Brian. Commissioner Griesbach.
I'm still waiting for my prize from the community guessing game. I can't wait to see what I won. I'll just give you a quick update. I'm probably going to leave this on here as a standing agenda item for a few weeks. The Spats property and the Wisconsin Public Service, we have officially closed, filed, and those parcels are completely done. So that's great news. Kind of give you also an update. We did, Lance had mentioned it, and take it from Lance, seeing his voice is going. We thought we had a very good meeting with the village last Thursday night. We ran through the project, kind of what we're looking at doing. Lance, then after the meeting, after the meeting, we had a conversation with Ariel and Eric about their property. And then Lance also sent forward the President Baker all the agendas and links to all the videos and all the meetings that we've had. So he has been brought up to speed with all the information that we do have. We told him we want to have that open communication, any other committee meetings that they would like us to come to. Lance volunteered to go to those. So we're trying to keep those communications open with them. So overall, I thought it was a great meeting with them.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing, seeing none, thank you for the update on that. We'll move on to CCIT projects. Mr. Klein.
Thank you. There is, our project updates are in your packet. We have, as always, we have a lot of stuff going on. Some of the big focuses right now are finishing pilot testing on our switching to a new mobile device platform. It's a security platform for phones to access our email system. And then we're in the final stages of rolling out this tool called Red Sky. Lance has been involved in actually helping with some of the testing on it. It's a mandatory change by federal law to set it up so that if anyone makes a call on a soft phone, like from their laptop, using it as a telephone instead of making a 911 call from here, we need to be able to when the 911 dispatch gets that call, it needs to show accurately where it is. Historically, if you made phone calls from a laptop, if you did it over a Wi-Fi connection at home, for example, frequently, especially from a corporate system, those would have the address of the corporate connection to the internet, not the place where the person was actually making the 911 call. So we're required to do that. We have been in the process of implementing it and doing some, we ended up delaying it a little bit as we wanted to do some more testing with it. Working on that pretty actively. We'll be redoing our Microsoft licensing at the end of July. That is, we're working on that right now. And then last week, our phone system, it needs to be replaced. I think it's been 12 or 13 years. We haven't done a replacement on it, and it's at end of life. So we put an RFP out for help with that project, and those bids came in those RFP responses came in last week. And we've narrowed it down to a vendor, and we'll start to do contract negotiations shortly on that. So pretty busy. Any questions on any of the projects, I'd be glad to take them.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for the update and report. Move on to item 6F, Highway Safety Commission update, May update.
We actually covered most of that in the last meeting, but I believe it should have been something in your packet for that. So.
Sounds good. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6G, Commissioner Report on Highway Projects.
I apologize. I thought we had said something. We must have not got it in the packet, but there was a letter out there. Our main project right now is we're working on Coney Chuck Highway R&N in Red Mountain. If all goes well with the weather and everything else, we should have that project wrapped up on Tuesday night. So we'll be out of the urban area, moving more in the rural areas. Our construction crew is working on culverts out in the town of Reed, and we were going to actually move to the town of Holton and McMillan and put them in. We're having issues getting culverts, steel culverts, so I don't know if it's something to do with tariffs, shortage of steel. People were hesitant on buying it, but we're having a little issue getting the steel culverts in on time, so we're kind of changing around and doing a couple other projects before that. We have a couple large plastic ones we're going to put in to get those done. Our bridge crew right now, normally the state likes to see their bridges washed, and we do ours too every spring of the year, try to get all the salt off those to make the life longer on those. We haven't washed the state ones. They haven't had us wash them for about 5 years, so our crews are out now just washing, trying to get those things all cleaned up. Our Stratford crew's been very busy, as Tom probably realizes, on 29, trying to hold 29 westbound together, and Mr. Dickinson well aware of that. They're out there putting mastic down on that road, trying to hold that westbound lane together till next summer when it should be reconstructed. And our shop is getting ready for mowing operations, which we should be probably starting on the state roads here in a couple of weeks. Otherwise, we're busy doing all the projects, construction projects.
So you said 29 westbound is slated for reconstruction next year?
Correct, from Edgar out past 97, and that includes the 97 ramps.
I traveled that recently and would agree with the assessment. Yeah, especially pulling a boat behind you is a experience that you're happy when you find fresher pavement.
Just remember, that's a state road and not a county road.
Correct. Any other questions, comments for the Highway Commissioner? Hearing and seeing none, thank you for the report. Move on to item 7, next meeting date, time announcements, future agenda items. 7A, committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. And 7B, next meeting date is scheduled for Thursday, July 3rd, 2025, 9 a.m. That being the day before July 4th, we may look at rescheduling that. I think that's been the consensus of many of the other committees. I'm seeing some heads nod in favor of rescheduling that meeting. I don't think it matters to me, but I'm happy to oblige, and we'll find a date when that works for folks' schedule. We'll try to get that rescheduled here in the next week to give everybody fair warning so you can get that scheduled on your calendar. I'll ask David to work with myself and Highway Commissioner and Administrator to find a meeting date that's available on the calendar. It works for most of us here. So with that, we're up for item number 8. Who would like to make a motion for adjournment? Supervisor Dickinson with the motion, second by Supervisor Jensen. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned. Less than 90 minutes.
That way you can just ask everybody in the meeting and try to be more efficient. Yeah, because you have HR, finance.